All my life I was the family failure. That's not me being dramatic. That's exactly what they called me. At every birthday dinner, at every family reunion, in whispers I could hear even when they thought I wasn't listening. Why can't she be more like Ashley, they'd say. Ashley, my older sister, was the golden child. Top of her class. Always neat. Always smiling. She got a job at one of the biggest companies in the city. Became a manager before she turned 30. She was their pride. Me. I dropped out of college. Couldn't keep a job. Got fired once for crying in the bathroom too much. I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew I didn't belong in rooms full of people who judged me. And Ashley made sure I knew that. I still remember the day she looked me in the eye and said, "You're an embarrassment. Honestly, I hope we're not even related." She laughed afterward like it was a joke. But I didn't laugh. I smiled weakly and nodded. Then I walked out into the cold, sat in my car, and cried while the rain beat against the windshield like tiny fists. That was the moment I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't let her speak to me like that again. Ever. I didn't fight back. I didn't scream or argue. Just vanished. No more calls. No more showing up at family dinners only to be ignored. No more begging to be seen. Let them think I gave up. Let them think I was hiding somewhere in shame. Truth was, I was working. I took the only job I could find. Cleaning offices. Scrubbing toilets. Emptying trash cans after rich people had gone home for the night. It was hard. My knees ached. My back hurt. But every night I stayed behind a little longer. Listening. Watching. I would find little things. Like the way one man treated his staff kindly and how people respected him more. Or how one woman wrote down every task in a small notebook and always hit her goals. I started copying them. I didn't know it then, but I was slowly building myself. The office I cleaned belonged to a small tech startup. One night, I saw a paper in the trash with numbers and investment notes. I didn't understand it, but it made me curious. I took it home and started Googling everything. That was the beginning. I signed up for free courses online. I studied how businesses worked. I stayed up late reading while the rest of the city slept. I didn't tell anyone. Not even the girl I rented a room from. I wanted to be invisible while I grew. When I had saved enough, I started my first side hustle, making websites for small businesses. I learned by watching YouTube and practicing on free tools. The first website I made looked like trash, but I kept going. Got better. Got faster. A bakery paid me $200 for a site one day. Then a dentist paid me $400. Then someone else paid me $1,000 to build an online store. That's when I knew. Maybe I wasn't useless. Maybe I just needed time. I kept reinvesting everything I made. I lived cheap. Ate instant noodles. Wore the same 2 pairs of shoes for 3 years. But inside me, something was growing stronger every day. Oh. I built a small agency. Hired 2 freelancers I found online. We started doing websites for bigger brands. I opened a business account under a new name. No one knew it was me. I didn't want them to. My family still never called. Not once. Not for my birthday. Not even on Christmas. And I didn't reach out either. I told myself it didn't hurt anymore. But deep down it still did. One night I saw Ashley on LinkedIn. She had just been promoted again. Head of strategy at Brightworks Corporation. I stared at the photo of her smiling in a red blazer, surrounded by congratulatory comments from our old family friends. I should have felt angry. But I didn't. Felt hungry. Not for food. But for more. I wanted to stop surviving and start owning. So I created a new goal. Build an investment firm. Help small companies grow. And quietly buy out the ones that were already failing. It wasn't easy. I made mistakes, lost money, got scammed once, cried again just like in that car. But I wiped my tears, tightened my ponytail and kept pushing. I registered my company under a name that didn't sound like mine. Hired people smarter than me. Let them speak while I listened. That was my power. I listened better than anyone else. Within 4 years, we became one of the fastest growing investment firms in the state. No one had a clue who was behind it. Not my parents, not old classmates, and definitely not Ashley. And then, one day, my assistant came into my office with a report. A company called Brightworks was in trouble, losing clients, internal problems. They were looking for investors. I felt my heart slow down, then speed up again. Brightworks, Ashley's company. Suddenly, I remembered the rain on my car window, her voice calling me in embarrassment, and I smiled, because they didn't know it yet, but I was about to become their new boss. The day I saw the report on Ashley's company, I didn't jump or shout. I just sat very still. I stared at the screen, the numbers, at the word, Brightworks Corporation. They were losing investors. Their leadership team was struggling. They needed money. I leaned back in my chair and whispered to myself, what a small world. I didn't rush in. I was careful, patient, just like I'd always been. I had learned something important over the years. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Can be silent, strategic, beautiful. So, I created a new shell company. One with a boring name that wouldn't raise any red flags. I'd done this before. I bought other companies quietly, helped some grow, helped some disappear. No one ever saw my face. I hired a financial advisor to handle the meetings with Brightworks. I stayed in the shadows. I didn't want Ashley to know anything. Not yet. The firm bought 30% of the company first. No questions asked. Just a quiet deal through the back door. Brightworks was grateful. Desperate people don't ask too many questions. Then we bought another 25%. Then 15%. Soon I owned 80% of Brightworks. 80%. Enough to do anything I wanted. I'll never forget the moment the last document was signed. I sat in my office, alone, and looked out the window. The city looked golden under the evening sun. Cars moved like little ants below me. And all I could think was, I did it. I really did it. But the best part, no one in my family knew. Not my mom, who used to shake her head when I walked into a room. Not my dad, who never bothered to ask how I was doing. And certainly not Ashley, who once laughed when I said I might start my own business. They still thought I was a nobody. And I liked it that way. Because the surprise was coming. One of my managers told me Ashley had prepared a big pitch to impress the new CEO. They had no idea who the new CEO was. They didn't even know we had taken full control. Ashley was excited, apparently. She believed this presentation could save her job. Could make her look like a hero. She had planned everything, charts, slides, speeches. Chose that day. The day of her big presentation. That would be the day I'd walk in. But not like the person they remembered. Well, I wore a black suit. Sleek. Powerful. Hair in a tight bun. Red lipstick, bold and sharp. I didn't dress like a disappointment. I dressed like a storm. I arrived at the building 15 minutes early. It was strange walking into a place that used to feel too big for me. But now it felt small. The receptionist greeted me nervously. You must be the new CEO, she said, eyes wide. He nodded. Yes. I believe they're expecting me. She led me upstairs. As we walked, I saw people rushing around. Brightworks was still trying to act strong on the outside. But inside, they were crumbling. And I was the one holding the match. We reached the boardroom. The glass doors were closed. I could hear voices inside. One of them was Ashley's. She was already presenting. And if we can improve the engagement metrics by 17%, we'll be able to pull in younger clients again, she was saying. I believe with the right investment, Brightworks can rise to the top of the market again. I waited for the perfect moment. Then I pushed the door open. The room turned silent. Ashley was standing at the front, her hand mid-air, pointing at a graph. I turned. Slowly. Eyes met. Her face went white. I stepped forward. Confident. My heels clicking against the floor like a drum. Ashley blinked fast. What are you doing here? She asked, voice shaking. Smiled. Good presentation, I said. Very optimistic. She looked around the room, confused. Where's the CEO? Everyone else turned toward me. I pulled out the chair at the head of the table and sat down. I said softly. I'm the CEO. Silence. Ashley dropped her marker. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. But how? What are you talking about? I leaned forward. You remember the person you called an embarrassment? The one you hoped wasn't related to you. Her lips trembled. That's me. I let the words hang in the air like thunder. Everyone stared. Some of the board members looked shocked. Others just looked curious. Ashley tried to speak. I didn't mean it. That was a long time ago. I didn't know. I raised a hand. Save it. She stood there frozen. Just like I once did, sitting in the rain, broken. But I wasn't broken now. I was the one holding the power. And this was just the beginning. Ashley stood in front of me, shaking like a leaf. I could tell she didn't know what to say. Her hands were clenched. Her mouth kept opening then closing. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Or maybe just the little sister she never thought would amount to anything. But I wasn't little anymore. Not in power. Not in presence. Not in purpose. The boardroom was silent. All eyes were on me. Some of the team didn't even know who I was, but they could feel something big was happening. Ashley finally found her voice. Listen. I know I said terrible things. I was young. Stupid. I didn't mean it like that. I tilted my head. Didn't mean it like what, Ashley? When you said I was an embarrassment? When you laughed at me in front of the whole family? Or when you said you hoped we weren't related? She looked down. I didn't think you'd remember. I remembered everything. I stood up slowly. Walked to the front of the room. I picked up the same marker she dropped and looked at the board where she had been presenting just moments before. The graphs. The projections. The desperate ideas to save a sinking company. I admire the effort, I said, writing one word across the board in big, bold letters. Revision. Everyone looked confused. Ashley blinked. Revision. I turned to face the room. That's what this company needs. Not just a new plan but a new beginning. Complete reset. And unfortunately, I said, looking straight at her, some things and people are not part of that future. Her face turned red then pale. Wait, what are you saying? You're dismissed, I said calmly. Effective immediately. He gasped. You can't fire me. Smiled. You're right. But the disappointment of the family can. The boardroom fell silent again. You could hear a pen drop. Ashley looked at the others, hoping someone would defend her. No one did. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her ID badge, and slowly placed it on the table. You know what hurts the most? She whispered, tears forming in her eyes. I thought I was doing everything right. But you were the one actually building something. He nodded. Yes. While you were too busy looking down on me, I was learning how to build an empire. She turned and walked out without another word. The room stayed quiet even after the door closed behind her. I turned to the rest of the board. We begin today. New leadership. New values. I don't believe in shaming people for failing. I believe in giving people second chances. Just like I gave myself one. Few people nodded. Some clapped. Others smiled nervously. I sat back down, took a deep breath and finally, felt peace. The days after that were a blur. My name spread through the office like wildfire. Everyone wanted to meet the mysterious new CEO. The staff were surprised, curious, even inspired. They saw me not just as their boss, but as someone who had fought her way up from nothing. My family found out a week later. It started with a call from my mother. Sweetheart, she said, her voice shaking. Is it true? You bought Ashley's company. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, it's true. Silence. Then a small laugh. Well, I always knew you were smart. Just took you a while. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how quickly people rewrite history when they think you're winning. Suddenly, I was being invited to dinners again. To weddings. To birthdays. Like they had always believed in me. But I remembered. I remembered every moment they didn't. Every time they left me out. Every time they sighed when I spoke. Every look of pity or disgust. I went to one family dinner. Just one. Shli was there. She didn't say much. She kept her head down. Her voice was soft. She had lost the glow, the sparkle. Now she looked like she was still trying to find her place in the world. I didn't speak to her that night. Not out of anger, but because I had nothing left to prove. When dinner ended, my dad pulled me aside. "You've really made something of yourself," he said, smiling. "We're proud of you now." That word stayed in my chest like a cold stone. Smiled. "Thanks," I said. But deep down I knew. I didn't do this to make them proud. I didn't build my life to get applause. I did it to heal, to rise, to show myself that being underestimated isn't the end. It's the beginning. Now I walk into rooms and people stand. I speak and people listen. But the best part, the girl who once cried in her car, feeling worthless, she became a woman who built an empire. So next time someone calls you a disappointment, just smile. Then build something they'll never forget. Kindly follow for more stories.